another episode of People, Place, and Purpose, the show where we hear stories from business owners, creators, and entrepreneurs about how they got started, what they love most, what challenges them, where they've had to pivot, learn, change, how relationships and networking have helped along the way, and ultimately, how they turn their passion into a successful venture and are living a life they love. I'm your host, Kate Lusko. I love to travel, eat delicious food, and meet and get to know cool people, and I'm so glad you're here today. Let's jump in. Shana Chauvin is a multifaceted entrepreneur whose background includes the medical industry, massage, reiki, owning a yoga and barre studio, teaching a wide variety of fitness classes, including yoga, which she still teaches, studying interior design, and her current business, WildCraft Co., where she handmakes and sells macramé, decor, and creations with, as she says, a modern boho-chic vibe. With that, let's get to today's episode. Good morning, Shana. Thank you for joining me this morning. It's nice to see you and hear you.
Good morning. Nice to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Welcome. So we're going to jump right in. I would love for you to start with kind of your background. So where you're from, where you grew up, where you went to college, what you went to school for, all of that kind of sort of fundamental baseline stuff.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Manchester, New Hampshire. And then I pretty much I have stuck to New Hampshire my whole life, lived in southern New Hampshire and surrounding towns, and settled down in Bedford for the last 7 years with my husband. So I've always been a New Hampshire girl. So sort of right after high school, I wanted to just jump into the field. I wanted to get right into healthcare somehow. So I went to school for medical assisting, and so that turned into getting grandfathered into surgical assisting. So I did that for 13 years. And and then during that time, probably just a few years in, I kind of wanted to explore other things. I started thinking, what can I do that's like homeopathic? So I also went to school to get my massage license as well. So during the time that I was surgical assisting, I was also doing massage on the side, mostly for friends, family, coworkers, friends of friends, things like that. I did work at a little salon and spa for a little while too, but mostly doing it on my own, which was probably my first taste of self-employment, or owning my own business under my own name. So getting to do it all on my own. Yeah. And during that time, of course, my biggest hobby and love was always physical fitness and working out. And something I always used to hear in the medical field was a lot of like, I could see you being a yoga teacher. I could see you doing this. So I used to think, could I ever do that? Like, I'd love to do that. So sort of during the end of my time while I was surgical assisting, I started to get really serious about looking into it and made the jump and got my ACE group fitness certification. So I did that. And shortly after I did that, I got the opportunity to own a studio, a barre and yoga studio. So I decided that it was something I couldn't let pass as a new instructor. I thought it'd be a great learning experience. So I dove all in. I left my 13-year career in the medical field and just jumped right into that. So I did do that for a while. And after that, during around that same time, I just started teaching and getting myself fully into that whole field. And that was a great experience, and which I still teach and everything now after I sold the studio. Again, more experience as an independent contractor and sort of being my own entity, going out and doing corporate yoga and working at different studios, and also teaching, doing Reiki. I got my Reiki practitioner as well. So another thing I was sort of doing on my own. And then I kind of fell into place with WildCraft Co. So that's sort of my background, how it led to where I am now.
So you left the medical field when you owned the studio, were you still doing massage, or did you set that aside?
Yeah, I was doing it for a while. And then I just sort of felt like I think I just kind of felt it out for long enough. It was about 8 years that I was doing it. And I thought I think I'm ready to put this to rest because I just want to put more time into my fitness career. And also I'd rather be on the massage table than getting the massage than giving the massage. So I will admit that. So I think I was ready to just put it to bed. So I did move on from that. And I've never been afraid to try all the things that I want to do. So that was sort of part of that for me. But I let go of the massage. So I left the medical field and the massage and sort of felt like I was on this right path of listening to how I wanted to help people in more of a homeopathic and natural way before I saw them in the doctor's office.
Right, that makes sense. And I'm sure there was a lot
Yeah.
that translated from what you learned in massage to yoga and Reiki and right, like I mean, the way that the body works and how things come together and ways to move to feel better and complementary activities. I'm sure all of that has been a benefit to you as you've continued down this path.
Oh yeah, I feel like even like just everything that I learned in the medical field sort of set me up to for even massage school and all of that, and just tons of anatomy and physiology, in depth on the body and everything. So, and the mind and nutrition and sort of all of that stuff. And it kind of made going into the fitness world probably a little bit easier for me in terms of what I needed to learn. Like when I first jumped in and did my ACE group fitness certification, I wasn't anatomy and physiology and the muscles and things weren't foreign to me. It wasn't my first time, like since, high school, some people would say sitting down, feeling like you're in science class again or something. All that stuff was so familiar to me. So yeah, it just is, I feel like I've just been on stepping stone from one to another, sort of from these things. So it's sort of is kind of just like me in a nutshell, I guess. The everything that I'm interested in, and I just kept trying out different things in different parts to see what part clicked the most.
So cool. So before we get to the wildcraft piece, so taking the yoga thread, so you were doing group fitness, you got certified in yoga, you own the studio, you did corporate yoga, you're still teaching to this day. Just sort of curious, like what is it about teaching yoga that you love?
Oh, I think there's so many parts to it, but I think the biggest part that I love is it's just not like one form of a workout or physical fitness. It's the whole mind, body. It can be so deeply healing for people. And I think that's the part that I love most about it. It's an awesome physical workout, yeah. And there's so many roads you can go down with that. But I think how I love how it brings the entire mind body connection, and soul or spirit, or however people want to look at that as well. So I love that part of it. And I think that's why teaching yoga is my favorite. I've gained a ton of certifications throughout my whole fitness journey, teaching everything from barre to hit and fitness fusion classes, and of course yoga, and then all the roads yoga can go down, from restorative to vinyasas, all the different kinds. But I think yoga is what my mainstay will sort of always be for me.
It's pretty cool. So you've tried lots of things to sort of find the one that fits best. I mean, back to, some of the earlier careers that you had, but especially kind of in the different modalities of fitness. So at what point did you decide to start Wildcraft? When was that?
Well, during right before COVID hit us, so like in 2019, a little prior to that, I mean, I've always had a creative side. Um, Definitely as a kid growing up and everything, it, I always loved, like, if you asked me in school, I'd probably say like art and gym were my favorite classes, but definitely art, was right up there. And so I've always been a super creative kid and just had a knack for that, and loved all different kinds. Um, part of my times, just backing up a little tiny bit to give you a clue into my creative side as well. So the medical sort of homeopathic side, all those things wrapped in that we talked about. But I also went to school for interior design as well during my time, right after I got my massage license. It was sort of like, all right, I love everything I do. I just want to keep going and keep learning. And that kind of brought back my I got to take art history class and do all those
Hmm.
things that I love from like my younger years, and sort of dip into all those types of that little corner of my soul, I guess you can say. So I was able to like have that little fill for a while, and then I didn't have it for a while, right? Because I was like so busy with kind of finding my way and like what I really wanted my career to look like for the rest of my life. So, or not for the rest of my life, because I firmly believe you can just keep doing whatever you want to do. Even if it changes a ton of times, because we just keep evolving. But but yeah, I think over the years I've just always had little like hobbies, like painting here or there, doing things with my hands. And so I was playing around with macrame, and I was just like, wow, I really like doing knots and making stuff with macrame. And as I played with that, I kind of was like, I think I could actually just start selling this stuff, because I can't just keep buying it and making it. So it kind of became like, I looked into it a little bit and was like, I'm just gonna create an Instagram, and it just sort of like starts trickling down. People are like, you should sell that, and you make an Instagram, and then you just open an Etsy account, and it just starts getting a little bigger and a little bigger. And then you're shocked people do want to buy it. So that's kind of how it just keeps growing and evolving from there.
It reminds me a little of like the adult version of friendship bracelets. Like I loved making friendship. There
Yeah.
was one in particular that ended up, it's almost like a spiral staircase. Like it had this winding aspect.
Oh
And
yeah, I know what you're
I would,
talking about.
yeah, I would pin them onto my pants so that I could sit like outside and write it. But I feel like this is like the socially acceptable as a grown up business version of that
Yeah.
from what little I know. Um,
Yeah, exactly. You'd be surprised how many people ask me if I used to make those when I was younger. The answer is yes. Yes, I
yeah,
did.
right. Seems similar. And I love that you said that sort of like, okay, one only needs so many, whatever, keychains, plant holders, right? So at some point, it just seemed natural to sort of see if there was a
Yeah.
market for something like this. So do you remember sort of back when you started, what were like the core products that you started selling before you, I'm sure, branched out?
Well, I started with sort of, well, I wanted to put out some wall hangings. I had some wall hangings that I was making at home for decor, because, right, I had this sort of love for interior design. And I thought I want to do like home decor and make it out of macrame and make different wall hangings and pieces. So that was my initial thought. And then it was right before Christmas, and so I kind of played. I saw some Christmas ornaments, and I was like, well, I think I'm going to play with making some ornaments. And then people started asking me for them. Yoga studios that I worked at that had boutiques, and people wanting to put them in the boutiques and sell them, and people wanted to buy them and give them out to employees. And so I ended up getting a bunch of like big orders that year for ornaments, which I just didn't expect or see coming. It was really like a push, like make. And so that was my first experience of like, oh my gosh, I need to make a big number of all these things to get an order ready for somebody. So it was really cool to see how I could get custom orders and things like that right off the bat. and sell things in sort of that sort of way too. And then when that sort of quieted down after the holidays is when I started getting my pieces out there and putting out some wall hangings and some wall plant hangers, and then sort of just listening to what I wanted to do. It's nice when you have a creative side where you can just sort of make what you feel like making and then put it out there and see if anyone likes it.
So where do you get inspiration? Like what causes you to say, hey, I wonder if I could make a, whatever it might be. Where do you, Instagram, Pinterest, are there, where do you come up with new ideas?
Yeah, so I think new ideas, my best things come from just playing around. So if I decide like, oh, I want to do a new wall hanging, you just have to like sort of start playing with it. Knowing like the different types of knots that you can use in your project. So on Instagram, there's a lot of different like accounts that might share, how to make this type of knot. So then you kind of have to use your creative abilities to decide like, how can I put that knot in like a wall hanging, or how can I add it into a plant hanger or something like that. So you really just have to trial and error and see how it looks in the end. I mean, I've made a couple things that I make it and then I sit back and look at it and I'm like, no. Or then you make stuff and you're like, okay, this looks pretty good. I'll put it out there and see what people think.
If you make something that you don't like how it turns out for whatever reason, do you take it apart? Do you give it away? Like, what do you do with something like that?
Honestly, depending on the size, if it's something small, I'm just going to take the scissors to it and then I'll recycle the scraps. But if it's a larger size piece, like you kind of have to go in sections and decide and kind of step back and look. And so sometimes when I'm creating, I'll like make something maybe halfway and then I'll step away from it and do something else. I think that sounds like it's common in creatives, but you kind of have maybe multiple things going on at the same time. But yeah, I'll do a little bit of a project, step back from it and kind of look at it again later and decide, is this how I want this to go, or is this going to work? Or I get a different idea as I'm making it. So maybe I'll take some apart, but it can take a really long time to take apart a lot of knots. So yeah, you kind of have to either have a plan, a sketch drawn up ahead of time, or if you're feeling it out, to be able to take your time and step away and maybe do something else and let the
Lots of
inspiration
patience.
grow and change.
Yeah, lots of
Yeah.
patience too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And so thinking back to sort of on the business side, right? Not so much the creative side, but when you started, it sounds like you started an Etsy account, which I'm sure is pretty standard, right? Like you didn't have to recreate the wheel there. But in terms of, sort of the back end, I mean, how did you find suppliers and how did you figure out marketing and financial, right? Bookkeeping stuff? Like, how did you figure out some of those business
Yeah.
pieces?
So when I was looking for suppliers and everything, because that was apparent to me before I was even selling, was that like it was kind of hard to find quality rope, because if you're not buying quality rope, it's murder on your hands. It can really tear up your fingers and your skin because the rope is rough, which is something people probably don't think of. So if you find a good quality supplier, the rope can be really soft and smooth, super soft. So it's so easy on your hands. So right away, I knew like making my first big like wall hanging piece. I kind of started to figure out, okay, I need this type of rope or whatever. And I started doing some research just on Instagram, reaching out to just some random people that I happen to come across or find, not even necessarily businesses, but people just posting maybe like projects and crafts that they make, and finding out and sort of asking like, hey, have you found a rope that you really like, and that sort of thing. So it's been nice to connect with the community on those aspects. And Etsy makes the back end stuff a little bit easier for you. I'd say the one thing that you have to figure out how to do on your own is sort of your inventory. So if you're going to be going to markets and adding in that element, you have to kind of figure out, all right, now I've got this inventory and now I have an Etsy shop too. So you're in two separate places with your inventory and not just having buyers from one place. So you kind of have to figure out your inventory and how to manage it.
Interesting. And have you ever thought about, I mean, I would imagine that there are benefits to Etsy, like that people go on there. I mean, I go on there, right? Just searching for something. And so I'm not necessarily going directly to a shop, right? So you get opened up to just random searchers. But I've also heard, right, that they take pretty steep cuts and maybe they have policies that are a little harder to adhere to. Have you ever sort of thought like, you know, is this something I should do on my own, or does it really just make sense for you to stay with something that's pre-existing like that?
Yeah, I think it's a great jumping point for people. And I think it takes a lot of, it's set up and ready for you. It's sort of easy to do. Yeah, I think there does come a time for a lot of makers. It's sort of a conversation I've had with many makers that I've met at markets and stuff, just about when you start with Etsy, okay, I'm thinking about transitioning to getting my own website so that you don't have the price cuts. But then you're sort of on your own with, just doing it's nice to have Etsy takes a lot of stuff out where it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to just put everything on there. You don't have to like super know what you're doing ahead of time with Etsy. I've helped a lot of new people set up Etsy accounts to start their own businesses. So I feel like it's a great starting point. And then when you want to transition, you kind of have to ask yourself, do I want to get rid of Etsy altogether? Do I want to keep it? It's a great way to have extra advertisement, because people, like you said, people go on Etsy and they'll search for something specific, or they might come across it in a different type of search. But one drawback I did notice is that when they're searching for you, all these other ones are coming up same thing, and there's going to be the people who make the same stuff as you. So they might automatically just want the cheaper one or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also having a bunch of offers go to that person with yours. So I find that that's why I do so well with just local people, because local people want to support someone local. So they're going to choose mine, even if there's a bunch of other options down at the bottom. So I guess that's one key note to think of if anybody is thinking about an Etsy. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of seeing if you're ready. And I've thought about that too. And then you have to sort of think of website design and am I able to do that myself? Do I have somebody do it for me type thing? So.
Well, and you still have to process credit cards. I mean, it seems like Etsy has sort
Oh
of
yeah.
built-in referrals, but also built-in competition. So it's sort of, pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
looked into, I think, doesn't Amazon have like a local handmade kind of section now? I feel like I've only seen it at Christmas time that they advertise it, but I wonder I don't know if you've looked into it, but I wonder what something like that would be like, if it would be a similar sort of, could open you up to new people, but could also be, I don't know, a new platform.
I think I've never looked into that. I think there's like mixed feelings on that in the maker community in a way, sort of, because a lot of companies are sort of taking a lot of projects or like designers' ideas and just making them and selling them on Amazon. So, and they're not handmade, but they're like the designs that are handmade by small businesses and artists and people. So I think there's sort of I think I've seen with some businesses and things, it'll say like not sold on Etsy, so that the pieces that you're getting you can't go find on Etsy, or excuse me, on Amazon as well. So I've kind of not gone down that path because I was like, ooh, I don't like how that sounds. So I haven't really looked into it much further than that.
Yeah, I was just curious. So
Yeah.
you talked about, back when you first started, you had a bunch of referrals to yoga studio boutiques and, sort of people that you knew. Since that point, right? How have you marketed? How have you gotten the word out to find new customers?
Instagram is great because I think it's sort of like word of mouth, but on social media. I mean, people share their stuff, stories, all of that. So Instagram has been great for me, especially locally. Most of my followers are I have almost 2,000 followers, which for me is a great manageable amount, and they're mostly local. And to me, that just feels great. Like I love being able to get out there to the community. So Instagram has been great for that. Markets have been great for that, doing markets. My first year in 2020, I had Bedford Living Magazine contact me, and they had nominated me to write an article about my work as a yoga teacher and as an Etsy artist. So that was really a great way to sort of put myself out there within my direct community, right? People in my neighborhood. And I did notice traffic picked up on my Instagram around that time. And so that was really cool to see. And then later that year, in the following January, sort of came about, and I was asked to be put in New Hampshire Home Magazine. So that was another way that I got out there. So sort of, I think when you put yourself out there on social media, people will find you and hear about you and want to learn more. And if they see your stuff and they like it, so I think it's like a nice trickle down effect. It allows you to go down these different avenues that sort of put you word of mouth out there in the community.
Very cool. And so, how do you sort of balance? I would imagine there come to be points where the things that other people want to buy may not necessarily be the things you want to spend all your time making. And so, how do you balance what you love versus what there might be demand for?
Yeah, totally. I think that's a huge conversation in the maker world because especially when you get into markets, because markets are, you can be very successful at them. And so you want to keep doing them. But at the same time, you're sort of just pumping out a lot of course, they're great products and great things to make and it's fun. But you sort of lose I'm just going to sit down and create to create,
Mm.
because you're creating to make an inventory and all these little gifts and things like that, which is really fun. So I think I sort of, at first I wanted to go crazy with markets, and then I thought, no, I'm going to take a step back and sort of slow down a little bit so that I don't take the fun out of the creative process for myself. Because, and also I mean, I like to make knots and make macrame because it's a very sort of meditative process for me. You can lose yourself in creating the pieces and tying the knots. And so I feel like adding in the extra elements of stress, which might just be part of, having a small business with it. I think if you have too much of that, it just takes the fun away from the creating. So I sort of stepped back and sort of decided I'm only going to do this many markets. Like this is all I want to do, all I need to do. I just want to make it this big, and sort of, if I feel like I have it contained in a nice little bubble of exactly where I want it to be right now, and it's manageable, and it allows me to put out things that people like and also just be creative on my own.
So, do you have a bucket list either for sort of 2022 or in the years to come for, things that you would like to do, what you would like this business to become? Are there things on your list?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year I did want to kind of maybe take more time to just put out some more maybe larger scale, like creative wall pieces and things like that. So, and of course, any artist or creative, you just have a million ideas like rolling around in your head. So I have a whole list of things that I'd like to create written down, and it's sort of all those things kind of keep going in rotation. Which one will I do next? What will come up? So yeah, I think just creating some more maybe single pieces and not maybe groups of small items, maybe keeping those just for upcoming markets and things like that. That's sort of a vision that I thought I would try putting into place this year.
Yeah, that's great. So to sort of again balance making sure that
Yeah.
you get out of this what you want to get out of it and what feels good for you while also, meeting the needs and wants of your customers.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just a nice balance all around because, just for me, having two sort of careers in the fitness world and teaching yoga. And that's sort of more my full time now, which has sort of been an up and down sort of throughout COVID. Teaching and stuff went down a little bit, and just because of things happening in studios. So, and then, with WildCraft Co went up, I think a lot of people were home and wanted to buy things that brought them joy and beauty and things like that. So, and now that we've navigated this a lot better and it's probably less unknown, I guess you could say. I've sort of seen that shift come back into place where I could have my fitness career and then also have something that I really love to do and be able to also sell it. So I think I've found that sweet spot now and just sort of making everything fall into place a little nicer.
That's fantastic. So thinking back, I mean, we talked about back when you did massage, right? That was sort of an entrepreneurial venture. So through all of the different hats you've worn, ventures that you've had, where did like relationships and people come into play? Like, did you have mentors? Were there resources, organizations you went to for help? Or, what role did kind of networking and relationships play through all of your different entrepreneurial ventures?
I think just like communities, little communities within. I think you meet so many people when you become part of, like, say, a yoga community. When you're a teacher, you meet so many students and just different little bundles of communities, I feel like. And it's such a great way to meet people throughout the years. I've had students who follow me wherever I go to teach, and that's really cool. And in turn, I've taken an interest to what they do as well, and I try and support them the best that I can to sort of give back in that sort of way. So that's been great. And also within the creative community and makers, just getting to meet other people not who do other small businesses, so not just macramé, say, but other people that I meet at markets who sell jewelry or do handmade soaps and things like that. It's been awesome to meet those different communities and sort of have the support from them, because they know exactly what you mean when, we all have topics that we talk about, that we're working out and working through and things like that. And so it's nice to have those people there as well.
And so if you hear about people who are sort of wannabe entrepreneurs, right? Someone who has this passion or this side hobby or whatever it might be, what advice do you have for them when they're considering taking the leap as you did and sort of leaving something traditional to maybe pursue something on their own?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely always say go for it. Like, you have to take the leap to just find out. I think it takes a lot of self-trust and just knowing that what's meant to be will be. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it's true. You just kind of have to try it out and see. I mean, if you don't try it, you don't know. So it's really kind of seeing what you like, what you want to do. And sometimes those things just turn into other things. I feel like massage sort of just turned into me wanting to do more with more people than just one person on a table. And that's how I got into fitness, just it being something that I always loved to do on my own. Now I get to do it with a lot of people. So, yeah, I feel like the advice I would give is to just go for it. Try what you love doing. Take something that you love doing on the outside and try doing it for a living.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm so in awe of people, right, that have done that, that have been brave. To me, it seems like such a brave thing to do to take that leap. But I mean, that's part of why I'm doing this podcast, right? I love hearing these stories that things seem to come together. And so then, like, who wouldn't wish to do something they love, support themselves that way, and be happy that they made the decision to do it, right? That just sounds like an ideal
Yeah.
world.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think people were ever changing creatures and just always evolving into different things. And so um, I think it's awesome to see people who sort of just do something and it evolves into something else. And over the years, or that evolves into something else, and how it supports them and makes them happy throughout specific times in their life. I think that that's what it's all about.
So, is there anything that I haven't asked you about being a business owner or the fitness world or your journey that you want to share?
Um, I don't think so. Um, I mean, all of it is just very, it's just such a great experience to have. And, I love when I like talking about it because so many people have dreams and ideas that they want to do. And they can feel unobtainable. But I just think if, you can set a plan into place and just go for it and move past the fear. And sometimes some yoga, meditation's great for that.
A little plug.
um, yeah, yeah, a little plug. Um, you can really get there. I mean, you really can do anything you want to do. It's completely up to you. Um, and I mean, I really enjoy helping people sort of see their pathway there. I mean, sometimes it doesn't mean it's all about jumping fully in. You can put one foot in sort of, and while you're doing something else, and then decide if you want to leave it completely. But I mean, there are different ways of getting there, and I enjoy helping people. I mean, I've had some just friends of friends reach out to me and say, hey, I'm kind of thinking about just doing an Etsy shop because I make a ton of bracelets and I want to sell them or something like that. And I love sitting down with people, having a cup of coffee and just going over Instagram. Like, how do do you start your own Instagram business? How do you do that? Do you just do your own separate page? How do you put yourself out there? How do you take pictures of your products, and sort of what do I need to do first before I like sign up and get the Etsy shop open? So I really love like just help walking people through that.
I think it's so neat too on Instagram. I love the sort of visibility and transparency that people like. So it reminded me when you said, how do you take pictures of things? Like, I saw someone recently post how they took the picture. It was like a video of how they took the picture of this sandwich. Right. And so they sort of showed the behind the scenes of like where they put the plate and they put the drink, and then nope, they moved the drink, and nope, then they moved it. Right. And so it was, I love that it sort of gives you this glimpse, whether it's people, whether it's businesses, not just sort of that bright, shiny catalog sort of picture like we used to only have, but you get to
Yeah.
see the behind the scenes, like how much time it actually takes to make that happen. Or when people, I follow some artists who show what goes into actually creating what it is that they're making. And it's just a neat way to greater appreciate, I think, the things that people are doing. It's fun.
Yeah, I think all the Instagram reels we see now are really good for sort of showing the behind the scenes, which is really fun way to just sort of show your customers what you're doing. And like creatives or makers like myself, you're a one woman show. You're literally doing all your advertising, social media advertising. You're taking the photos, you're editing the photos, you're doing your listings, your inventory, everything. It's a one person show. So it's kind of cool to put it out there and do a little behind the scenes for people.
So before I ask you to tell everybody where they can find you, tell us a little bit, what are all the things we touched upon, wall hangings and smaller pieces, but sort of what is the range of items, maybe even right now, that you have available for sale?
Yeah, so I usually always have wall hangings for sale. I like to do in a variety of wall hangings, plant hangers. I always have plenty of plant hangers, and I like to do a wide range of like sizes and prices for people for that. I also do a lot of mug rugs, which is a fun way of saying coasters.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of macrame coasters. Also, some of the smaller items being macrame jewelry earrings. So a lot of earrings and keychains. My car diffusers, which are probably one of my biggest selling products. So the macrame car diffusers. I also do make my own essential oils for the diffusers. So I have some other goodies in there that aren't necessarily made from a piece of rope. um, but yeah, I mean, those are sort of my mainstay pieces. Yeah,
Sounds like some complementary things. And so then
yeah.
where can people find you online, on social media? Where do they go and what do they search for?
Yeah, so for WildCraft Co on the Etsy site, it's wildcraftco.nh, or excuse me, scratch that. It's wildcraftconh.etsy.com. And for the Instagram, it's wildcraftco.nh. And if anyone's interested in yoga, sk_Chauvin, Chauvin.
Awesome. Thank you. This was so fascinating. I love the opportunity to get to know people I already know, but learning things that I didn't know before and sort of delving deeper into your journey. So thank you for being here and for sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
It is incredible to me to hear about the drive and enthusiasm business owners have for their work, and Shana is no exception. On to the takeaways from today's episode. Don't be afraid to try all the things you want to do, and then also to be brave enough to know if it's time to move on from them. If you're looking for direction, maybe spend a little time thinking back to what you enjoyed doing most as a kid and see if it sparks anything. Take the time for play. You might be surprised what happens. Perspective is so valuable. If you're feeling stuck, step away and come back with a fresh outlook. Boundaries are good, especially if they allow you to retain enjoyment of the work in your business. And finally, find your people. There's so much to be gained from connecting with the community. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of People, Place, and Purpose. Please remember to subscribe, rate, review, and leave a comment. As a new podcast, your support really means a lot. And if you know someone who might be inspired by this story, please share it with them. I would also love to engage with you directly, so please find us on Instagram at People, Place, Purpose. I'm so excited for us to continue to learn and grow and discover new things together, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, it's a beautiful day for an adventure. Get out there and explore.